Hello, everyone, and welcome to 2021 and season 2 of Book Talks. I'm just so excited to be able to say that. This was an idea that we had that I actually kept secret from Donna for a few months because I wanted to put something together really special for her. And when I told her, as was predicted by Rebecca, our wonderful chef, Donna was very emotional about it because she loves story and song like we all do, and she loves any chance for us to talk with our friends and neighbors and followers on our platforms. And so I'm so excited to announce season 2, and we've got so many amazing guests coming up over the next few months. I am extremely excited to tell you. Today, we have, for our first episode of the new season, an extremely special guest that I am obsessed with. You are going to become obsessed with. If you haven't already heard of her, you probably have, though, because she is an enormous, not even local celebrity, full-on celebrity, especially here in the South. You'll notice a little change of scenery, too. I'm in my kitchen. That's a little hint, because our guest today is going to be Whitney Otawka, the most amazing chef and author. And we're going to talk about Whitney's new-ish book that many of you already have purchased. And I'm just so excited. So without further ado, and we're being joined by Whitney. Hooray! Thank you. Oh my gosh, thank you so much, Whitney. I know you have a family and an adorable little man at home and an adorable larger man at home. And thank you so much for making time to talk with us today.
No, I'm happy to be here. I love story and song, as you know, because you see me in there all the time. So any chance I have to talk to fellow book lovers, it's really fun for me.
Well, as you know, Whitney, we are just over the moon obsessed with you at Story and Song. I am particularly obsessed with you, but generally speaking, obsession is the theme at Story and Song when it comes to Whitney Otawka. But we have some friends and followers that don't live on the island and don't live in the area. So if you could just really quickly tell us a little bit about who you are, Miss Whitney Otawka, and why I am just raving and obsessed with you. Not that there's enough time to get into that, but an attempt.
Well, let me go ahead and tell our audience, full disclosure, I have a 7-month-old child who has not been sleeping recently. So if any of this comes up as mumbo jumbo, it's not my fault.
What's his name?
What did I say last night on that Instagram live?
What's your little man's name again?
Well, we call him Fig. Yeah.
I knew. I just wanted you to say it.
So yes, I'm Whitney Otawka. I'm a chef and cookbook author. I wrote The Saltwater Table. I most recently was there it is, the beautiful Saltwater Table.
This one.
I can happily, I can give it the compliment of beautiful because I worked with such an amazing photographer, Emily Dorio, and I worked with such an amazing team. My husband helped style, and so did Emily. It was all shot on Cumberland Island. So yes, most recently I was the executive chef at the Greyfield Inn on Cumberland Island, where I lived for 5 years. And Cumberland Island is the southernmost island off the Georgia coast. Surprisingly, there in Northeast Florida, sometimes in Fernandina, sometimes in Jacksonville, I would still run into folks who would say, "Where's Cumberland Island?" So it's a national seashore. It's widely it's not developed, and the inn itself is an old house that was owned by the Carnegies and still is in the Carnegie family, and it was turned into an inn in 1963 or 1964. So it has a long history. It was a great place to live, and it really inspired that cookbook. It inspired the food I created in that region, and it's inspired my exploration of that region's food, which is what the Saltwater Table is really about.
Brilliant, wonderful, perfect, as always, 10 out of 10. And for a little just background on our connection with Whitney, I think my big introduction was that we hosted an event with the author Stephen Doster of Footsteps in Time, which was a photo history of the island. And we combined that with one of your recipes, the shrimp and grits recipe. And we had people come and listen to, we zoomed in Stephen Doster, and we served your food, and it was just beyond amazing. And that was my first like hear about like Whitney Otawka. Of course, Donna, who knows everyone and everything, was like, oh, she's amazing. And then when I got to meet you, I was like, oh my God, like she's so amazing and so beyond the hype. And just I don't know if you saw, well, you saw it because we talked about the story, but that is my side note. The post about this, that is my all-time favorite photo of you and your husband and Fig with your little deer outfits. That was such an unexpected delight. And you guys came in like that. Oh, everyone, oh, it's just so wonderful. But
I was very strategic about his Halloween costume, making it something that I could turn into a holiday card for folks. It was
perfect.
Year, so.
That is efficiency beyond compare. So I mentioned right before you joined that I've moved locations. In the past, I'm in my office, which I love and is perfect, but it has some storage behind it, so there's always broom handles. So I moved to my kitchen, which is on theme because you are a celebrity chef and cookbook author, as you said. And in the very beginning, my inception for this conversation was I was going to think about incorporating cooking, and then I remembered two key details. You are probably so beyond sick of cooking, and I am not good at cooking, except for when I occasionally...
I'm never sick of cooking, honestly.
Well,
I mean,
that is a relief.
There's nights when I don't feel like cooking, maybe after like a 12-hour day of doing that one thing. But I never, ever tire of cooking, of eating, of exploring food. So.
Well, and but also I just wanted to be able to have a conversation where I wasn't, at first I was like, oh, should I ask her to like do like but I was just like, no, let's just have a conversation about it and talk about it. So my only commitment though to not cooking, but kitchen preparing is I made tea.
Oh, and I'm drinking tea.
Well, and the other reason I did this is because this teapot came from one of my favorite boutiques on the island, Amelia Linen and Wood. And Kim, the owner, is amazing, and she has all kinds of amazing fun stuff. And so I love featuring also on Book Talks local businesses and stuff. So today is Linen and Wood, and the tea is not local, but I'm sweetening it with Stubby's honey, which is local. So it's a whole local mess here on Amelia Island downtown, and it's very, very exciting.
I feel like you might be looking for sponsorship.
Well, maybe not sponsorships, but I would love some like boosting on social media. That's all I need. But anyway, no, I just love one of the things that's been amazing about doing social media for Story and Song is that I have gotten to meet like and interact with business owners in a different way than just being a consumer, which I think is really, really cool and gives you like a good perspective. And I think the name of the game on Amelia Island really is collaboration instead of competition. And so I think like we're always trying to like shout out other places and people and stuff because like no one wants to be the only place on Amelia Island, right? Like there's no restaurant that I wish was the only restaurant. There's no boutique that I wish was the only boutique, but the ones that we love, we talk about and want people to, and for a town, any beachy kind of touristy town, I think that people forget that there's so much like local charm everywhere, especially here is so special. I mean, that obviously, but it's something that I think about a lot. So like one of the many things I like to bring in, and Donna feels the same way, to our social media platforms is support. And who's also really great about it is Natalie at Wicked Bao, the Taiwanese fusion restaurant. She's like constantly posting everywhere, going everywhere, and I just love it because there's like this connectivity, and that's my big local shout out with my favorite little places and everything. So
very nice.
Okay, so Whitney, I was hoping we could talk a little bit about your journey to becoming a celebrity chef, a little bit about one that went into the inception of the Saltwater Table, and just what it's like to be so renowned. Because another thing that I love quoting to people is that you were Georgia Author of the Year, as I recall, in 2019.
Yeah, I was.
And I remember because we had a lovely gold sticker on the books in 2019 that said Georgia Author of the Year, which I think we should just keep forever for all years. Yeah. But so, Whitney, how did you get started in the chef world? How did that all come about?
Sure. So, I like to say that I didn't know what a chef was growing up. Like, I didn't know that that was an option for me as a career. I grew up in a small town in the Mojave Desert of California. So, agricultural, local produce, that wasn't in my vernacular by any means. There's not a lot of local greens growing out in the Mojave. So it was really a move to the Bay Area for my undergraduate degree at UC Berkeley that sort of opened the world of cooking to me. I started working in a little French restaurant in Oakland, California when I was 19 years old. I was a Francophile. I loved everything about France. I wanted to speak French. I wanted to live in France. And I spent some time at the UC Berkeley French department, and I found an ad for a waitressing job at this little French creperie, and it felt very Amelie. It felt like this was, my destiny to be a waitress at this French restaurant. So I went and I applied for the job. I had never had any restaurant experience, and the owner could kind of see through me and knowing that I didn't have any experience, and he offered me a job in the kitchen, which I thought was bold considering I had no experience for waiting tables. And I took it. It was, really close to where I was living at the time. And again, it was adorable. And the owner was from Toulouse, France, and he did Breton style galettes. So crepes, as we think of them in the US, are usually the sweet sort of, white flour crepes. And those were the dessert crepes. But the buckwheat galettes were these beautiful, savory crepes that we would serve for meals. And, anyway, it was working in that kitchen that sort of opened my eyes and to what cooking was and to the fact that I was good at it. And sometimes I say unfortunately good at it because working in restaurants is
not for us.
Not always the easiest career path. But I loved it. And the owner made everything from scratch, and it would just be he and I in the kitchen, cooking his mother's recipes. It was a beautiful introduction to the life of cooking. We would sit down every night and have dinner, talk about food, talk about French culture. It was just sort of eye-opening to me. And from there, I just kept working in restaurants. I graduated from UC Berkeley thinking I would go on to be an archaeologist, but I loved working in restaurants. So I found myself living in the South in 2006, and it was sort of it was a time in my life where I was trying to decide, am I actually going to do this thing? Am I going to commit to being a chef? Because if I am, I need to work for the best people I can. I need to deep dive into this. And there was a turning point for me, a trip to DC where I was, going and planning all these great food destinations where I was going to eat dinner every night. And it was just this epiphany after all this experience working for, this great chef in California and traveling and planning my meals. I was like, wait a second, this obviously is my true passion, my love. This is what I'm going to do with my life. So I went for it. I worked constantly. I felt like I was a little behind having made the decision to be a chef at the age of 24, 25. So I worked for two chefs at the same time. I would work 7 days a week. I would work from 8 in the morning to 1 a.m. It was just like complete submersion as far as cooking. So that's a little crazy. Not everybody does that, but that was how I started. So that was sort of my beginnings. And then I ended up coming to Cumberland Island in the Greyfield Inn. By chance, I moved to Georgia. I saw a PBS special about great inns of national parks, and I saw Greyfield Inn on it. And I had it on my radar as a place I needed to visit and check out. It just seemed so amazing. And so I went and visited in 2006, fell in love with the property, fell in love with the place, went back, continued working where I was working in Atlanta and Athens, Georgia. And at a certain time in my career, I felt ready to helm my own kitchen. So I wrote the folks a letter and I said, hey, my name is Whitney Otawka. I'm interested in being the chef at the Greyfield Inn. Just like that. They weren't even looking necessarily, but I was like, I want to be your chef. And they actually responded and said, okay, why don't you come down and cook a dinner? So it was just sort of this beautiful, beautiful lineup of events that happened that brought me to Cumberland Island. And for all of those out there that have been, it's a very inspiring environment, inspiring place. So that led to the making of the saltwater table. The That's a long answer. I
Um,
felt like there were 3 questions you threw me, so I kind of just like ran with it.
that was the greatest answer to any question that's ever been asked. Winnie, everyone knows that I gush about you, and I'm a huge fan of yours. I have enormous respect for you, but
Thank you.
it I cannot express enough that I is that story in Saltwater Table? I
There's pieces of it, yeah.
Okay, because I haven't like read it cover to cover. Like everyone, we've gone through the recipes of story and song, and we've talked about your book before here on this show. But I just I that I mean you like it's sort of like strange truth stranger than fiction. You like I'm like, okay, well, we'll talk about we'll introduce and talk about her background. I couldn't have predicted the story would be that amazing. And like, I mean, I'm not just saying that I mean, you were an up and coming chef and then reached out and just heard about it. I mean, that's like the kind of story you hear on Amelia Island in this area all the time, but it's just so special. I mean, if you had just heard about it and applied, that's fine too, because it's an amazing, beautiful place and you're an amazing chef. But like, even the introductory little story is just so incredible and unreal. And I just think that that's so amazing. I knew I would walk away from this conversation even more obsessed, and yet it hasn't even been very long and it's already happening. I'm like, should we just cut it right now, because I don't know how much what's left. I am that is so amazing.
Yeah,
No, please.
I mean, really, I feel like everyone has a very interesting story when you begin to look at people's lives and how things intertwine and how we end up the places that we are. There's a story behind a lot of our lives, really. Well, it's just sort of the way that we tell it too that makes it interesting.
It's very humanizing for you, a celebrity, to say that, but luckily your life is so interesting we can all live vicariously through it. I have a question, and it is just my ignorance, but I have wanted to know this forever, and I was like, oh, perfect excuse to ask Whitney instead of Googling it. So have you had any, or what should say, what formal training have you had in order, and / what formal training do people need to wear the title of chef?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's a title I think that gets thrown around sometimes, and I'm kind of surprised by like who we call chef occasionally. I did have some formal training. I don't think that it makes for the title of being chef. I did go to culinary school. It was because I was deciding to take this career path on a little bit later. I wasn't 18 and I didn't have that little, that time to train formally. I feel like if you know early on this is the path you're going down, you can really like gain those skills working in kitchens over 5 or 6 years. So I did the route where I was working for the 2 chefs at the same time, and I was going to culinary school. So I was like I said, I had to deep dive into it in order to make sure I was where I personally wanted to be with my skill level in my career. So yes, I did go to culinary school, but for me, what defines a chef is really sort of it's partially there's something to be said for the experience of working for other great chefs, working those lines, working those hours, putting the time in to train, to understand what our career field is. Like I had the opportunity, like many people on Amelia, to meet Jacques Pepin and talk to him. And if you read his biography, there is a lineage of what it was to be a chef, and they were abusive kitchens, and they were military-like in their organization. And those people, those chefs, have created an industry today that allows chefs to have careers behind the closed door, to have, cooking television shows, to have books, to be able to step out of the kitchen and meet and talk to people. Those are the chefs that have laid the foundation of where we are today in our culture and our the way we sort of idealize what a chef is. And so for me, the idea of being a chef in some regard, you do have to have worked in some of these kitchens to understand what this rigor is all about. And I feel like you have to earn that title over time working with others. But there are some people who can gain skill and have experience and are naturally talented enough to be able to say that after, you know, they've opened their restaurants and they've earned the credit that they should be in fact acclaimed chefs, and maybe they didn't work for years and years and years on the line, but they have something special. Those people are chefs too. So it's really varied, I think, as far as like how to gain that title. But ultimately, leading a kitchen, you know, creating beautiful food for others, you know, and sharing that wealth of knowledge and training others, that begins to make you a chef.
That, as always, that, I mean, that's just such a like an amazing answer, but also it's so much information that I think people don't think about. And you mentioned Jacques Pepin, who is another celebrity that we largely lay claim to here on Amelia Island because he's lived for so long here, but is also an amazing friend of the store and just an amazing human being. We all know, extremely generous, kind-hearted. We were all very saddened by the passing of his wife. And you know, I think the only thing, and one of the many things I never thought about until coming here was chefs and great food and great people and telling stories with food. But there's so many incredible restaurants in this area, you know, as you know, and being one of those incredible chefs in an incredible restaurant. But I think the only sort of thing I still hold on to is I fear for any situation where there's elitism, you know, that keeps people from attaining like you, because I like that you mentioned that someone could be naturally talented, you know, and things like that. But I'm just imagining the people who have cooked for so long, but never in anywhere very prestigious, but who are so knowledgeable and so passionate about cooking, but that will never get to wear that sort of mantle, you know, and I feel sad for those people who deserve to be, you know, called chefs, but maybe never will.
Well, being a chef is also a bit of a curse. So, one, nobody invites you to dinner at your house because they're afraid to cook for you. Two, you work incredibly insane hours. When everyone else is having holidays and going out to dinner, you are behind the line cooking those dinners. So, don't always feel so bad.
Sounds a bit like owning a bookstore.
Yeah.
But you know, I'm glad that you say that. But you know, it's funny. I often tell people something you told me once, which is, if you remember, I told you that a long time ago I made lunch for Jacques Pepin, and I was really nervous. I was helping, you know, a woman who was our chef at the time, Tanya Clark, and I was really nervous. And obviously, and I also didn't know Jacques Pepin at the time. Not that I know him very well, but I didn't know him at all. And only after, you know, did I learn he was such a kind-hearted, generous, like very just wonderful, and so easy to like, so like just, you know. And I was saying that I was happily surprised because here I am thinking a chef, he's probably getting very picky, critical, or whatever. And you said to me that anytime you don't have to cook it, or that someone else cooks for you,
Yes.
you know, that's all you really want. And so I have thought, and I've actually told that story to a lot of people of you saying that. And I think about that all the time because it also reminds me of, we're also very lucky to have friends, Story and Song, but also Amelia Island. We have some amazing authors. I mean, we count John Grisham, internationally renowned author, as a great personal friend of the store, who, as we all know, lives part-time on Amelia Island. And, you know, people like great authors like him who are very much celebrities, you know, you might expect to be very, very like head in the clouds and pretentious, but they're so, when authors are famous, in many cases, they're so down to earth. And so, and it reminds me of chefs, the same kind of thing. And obviously we've gotten to have both at Story and Song, amazing celebrity chefs and amazing celebrity authors. And it's just amazing that, and obviously there's going to be exceptions and people can be, you know, horrible, whatever. But people like are in these two industries, our experience has been people who are so down to earth and friendly and just, you know, so I think that's been a really, really awesome part of like thing I've gotten to learn through, you know, through Story and Song.
Yeah. Well, I think, you know, it says something for the area too, that it inspires writers to have, you know, such a great, interesting group of writers and chefs that come through the area. I think there's something about the environment of Amelia Island and sort of those barrier islands. It's very magical, and it inspires creativity ultimately. But going back to this, there are some very horrible chefs, though.
Oh, no, of course. I like everything. I just mean, I feel that I've been really fortunate, and we in Story and Song has been fortunate to have these amazing world-class celebrities who are show up and they're so like, don't make a big deal out of me, and I'm very low-key and so easygoing and friendly, and obviously yourself is included in that, but all these amazing, I mean, household names who are coming through and just really nice people. And I want to hope they're not the exception, but people, they might not be the rule, but maybe, like, I don't know,
Clearly,
think,
you haven't been watching Hell's Kitchen or anything like that.
Well,
there is a lineage of abuse.
I try not to. I just mean that I want to have my impression of chefs be people like you and Jacques Pepin, which, even if it's not the case, that's what I want to, that's what I want to carry, like that view. I'm not saying all chefs are wonderful, but our experience luckily has been, or at least our chefs, our authors,
Yes,
are special. So, and we're claiming those.
I have to quickly say, I saw Alejandro Temez jump on this chat. I have to say hello to him because he's one of my favorite people that has worked for me in the past and has his own barbecue restaurant now in Athens, Georgia, Temez Barbecue. So if anybody from Athens is watching, go check out Temez Barbecue.
That is so amazing. I knew there would be cool chef people jumping on and following from you. We have we're having another guest this week who is a chef turned author, but she wrote a fiction kitchen story. It's very cool. Her name is Yafa Santos. She's become a huge author, and she is a great friend of the store also, and she's going to be joining us next week. And so I didn't even mean for that to happen. I wanted two of our really amazing people, but it just so happens you're both in the culinary world, and so I'm really excited to compare and contrast with that. But she also has these amazing people in her circle, especially in her social media, and so I look forward to every time we have a guest on here like this, amazing people from their following come. Like, we had one of our favorite bloggers we work with, Miranda. She had her whole cohort of British bookstagrammers commenting, and it was just such a good time. It was really fun. And I'm sure, what was his name again? The gentleman that you were just saying?
Alejandro Temez.
Amazing. I am sure that he is, like, his food is amazing. If he worked for you and learned anything from you, I'm sure it's just so incredible. So your husband is also a chef.
That's true. Yeah.
And so he assisted you in the making of that book. What is it like for two chefs to come together and pull out of the oven a perfect little baby human? No, I just wanted to use that metaphor. So how has Ben's background, do you think it's similar to yours? Do you think it is different, or do you complement each other? I know he was instrumental in the making of this book as well. So, if you want to speak a little bit to that.
So what's great about our personalities and our approach to cooking is that we are very different, but it's complementary. So Ben and I started working together in 2006. So we have a long history. We worked together before we ever dated, before we were married, before we
romance in the kitchen. That's very Yafa Santos. We'll have to talk about that next week.
I mean, my life is some pretty good stories, but Ben grew up in the South, where I grew up in California. So our what we grew up knowing food to be was very different. And so me coming into the Southern region, which is one of the most important food regions in the country, it was great for me to be able to learn from him. And I say this in the book too, there's something to be said about what it is to learn about Southern cooking from a home perspective and not just a professional perspective. I don't think that it is a good picture to only understand restaurant cooking. There's something more about the grandmothers and the great grandmothers who have been cooking this food and teaching us things along the way that needs to be brought to the table. so I like to say. And so Ben kind of opened that door for me, and I was falling in love with Southern cooking at the same time I was falling in love with him. So we really had a lot of fun exchanging ideas. And then also he
that's the tagline right there. Why? Where's that?
Yeah,
I was
it's
falling
in
in love
there.
with Ben
It's in
while I
there.
was falling with Southern.
You
That's going
read the.
next edition.
You got to read the intro.
Oh, wait a
But
sec. Oh God. Hold on.
he was a pastry chef, and so he's very meticulous. He's very detail oriented. Where I'm sort of big picture, and I like to, think of, I like to concept the idea, and Ben likes to come in and refine that idea. We work really well together in that way. He's very focused, where I can run around the kitchen and need to direct 5 different things. Um, so Ben is as much the author of that book as I am. He was the recipe tester. He really did a lot of the technical writing. The pastry recipes are all his for sure, because it's not my forte. I like to dream up the flavors, but he really likes to come in and make sure it's perfect. So yeah, and he did a lot of the styling too. So where I was working with the photographer, Ben would be in the kitchen. Everything in that book is edible. A lot of cookbooks will do a lot of food styling with different props and things like that. But we shot everything in season, and if you could pull that dish out of the picture, it would be as delicious as if you were eating it in the restaurant. There was no shortcuts along the way. We wanted to make sure that people could cook out of that book and understand what it should and hopefully will potentially look like. That way it's not just oh, it's green because we dyed it green, no, it's the cucumber soup is that bright, vibrant color because the cucumbers were in season, and that gives you the opportunity to try to replicate it at home and have an understanding of the image. Sorry, that jumped. I jumped from Ben to my cucumber soup looking green.
Oh my God. No, it was absolutely perfect. You referenced the introduction, which again, I apologize, but I have spent months jumping from recipe to recipe. I haven't sat down and gone cover to cover, and clearly that's where I'm missing out, because I just want to read the very bottom. And normally you would read this, but it's my show. No, I'm just kidding. It's so adorable, and although I like the quote, "As I was falling in love with Ben," I stand by the quote, but I do love, and it brings a tear to my eye. For Ben, my North Star, where shall we go next? Adorable. Oh, I just wish.
We have a constant sense of adventure, the two of us. When we're not cooking in restaurants, when we're not just writing, we're traveling. Obviously, we're not traveling at the moment, as nobody really is, but it's one thing that we miss desperately, and we are very excited to get out there. And it's how our cooking is inspired. It's how we find new plates. It's how we are, creative and interesting, is through our travels. So yeah, we're always planning our next destination.
Oh man, I should have told Ben to jump on, although I'm sure he's putting Fig down or something. In fact, I guess I should have just had you bring the whole family on screen, because your family is just so wonderful and beautiful, and I just love the way that every time we've talked about this book, and every time you come in, I'm pestering you with questions and talking to you, and but you just have this, you're like, we are always talking about Whitney Otawka, but you have this ability to share the spotlight so well, in a way that it just that it's just something that's so amazing, because like you said, Ben is as much a part of this of you, and the way you bring your family in such a real way. For me, I just love, and obviously I'm a huge fan of Ben as well. And it's just, I fit that stereotype where, since if there's a strong woman, I'm going to alienate right to her. But, it's just so amazing. And you talked about Ben. Where is Ben from again?
So Ben grew up in Washington, Georgia.
Oh.
So it's kind of a smaller town outside of Athens. And then he lived in the mountains of North Georgia as well, in Tiger, Georgia. It's like Raven County.
Wow. And I think a lot of people say this, but not enough people really understand it. You talked about emphasizing, basically, and I'm butchering your elegant words, but an emphasis on home cooking and real Southern experience and stuff. And for you to be from California, but to clearly understand and have a relationship with Southern cooking, and for you to say that Southern cooking is one of the most important, if not the most important, cooking subculture in the United States, does me, who I and my family are lifelong generational Southerners, it it just means so much to me for people to recognize, because unfortunately the South doesn't always get recognized for the most positive things. You know, I grew up in a small town in North Carolina. I went to school in Alabama. My family's from very, very backwoods Alabama, and I just like, there's so much beauty, there's so much rich culture, and it gets talked about in stories and it gets talked about in monuments and natural beauty, but re-emphasizing food, I think, is so key, because it's just, you know, I like it's, and then we joke and stuff, but then you really have someone who's like never had grits, right? And
Right.
then you think, it's a cliche, but you know, we're like, how? Or
Yeah.
people, or we had this funny moment where Donna was asking Rebecca and I questions about cornbread, and it was like, well, yeah, you know, you just take for granted, you know, things like, not that I'm any kind of a chef, I just, you know, you pick up a thing or two, but it's just so, it warms my heart to have you come. You're from California and have your background and see and come and appreciate this place. And it reminds me of a lot of people who come to Amelia Island and to the South from up north, and instead of just writing off based on a handful of stereotypes, to really appreciate and love being here. And that just means so much to me personally. And you, the way you bring that to the forefront of your cooking, and you're talking about your book, and your book itself is really, really incredible. And like I said, my obsession levels are just dangerously off the charts. And I just think that's amazing.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm always surprised when people are like, "Oh, I don't like grits," and I'm like, "What? Wait, I know you're not Southern. Have you actually had grits?" And they're like, "Yeah," and I'm like, "No, no, no, no. You haven't had them if you don't like them, because they're delicious."
I was gonna say, like, I think you're thinking of like Quaker Oats or something at this
Yeah.
point, because I just, and it's little, or like sweet tea, like everyone is like, oh, well, no, it's like iced tea, it's sweet. And I was like, well, no, it's not. Like, it's something, it's totally different than that. Like, you know, and it does, I mean, food shapes culture and shapes people, and, you
Yeah.
know, and it just so, like, I mean, obviously, you know, all this. I'm like expressing, and just, it's just so special that, you know, someone, and now you are no longer the executive chef at the Greyfield Inn, and you're headed on to your next chapter. Do you want to talk
Yeah.
really briefly about that?
I mean, so I always have a lot of things in the works, but the next sort of project that we're opening is in Savannah, Georgia. So I'm working with a brand new hotel that's being opened there, and I'm opening a signature restaurant on the ground floor of that restaurant, as yet to be named. But it's going to be a lot of the beautiful food, similar to the saltwater table, and expression of the Georgia coast, of the wild Georgia coast, our unique, beautiful ingredients. It should be a fun project. So we'll be heading into Savannah this spring, and we'll be on board there for a little while. So it's an extension of really what we were doing on Cumberland. We
Oh
really
man,
do love it. So
we're gonna miss you so much when you're in
yeah,
Savannah. Oh.
it's only 2 hours, and I'll be down. Hopefully, we'll be doing some dinners at Greyfield still. We have some events in the area, so we'll be through often. And I think it's probably our favorite beach to go to down there in Fernandina. So you'll see us down there still. I'm easy to
Yeah.
spot with my tattoos on the beach.
I know, and I can't wait to see a little fig on there too. I your tattoos are something I noticed right away, because I have a lot of tattoos and love them. And so you talked about, you know, actually, this is a question I've been meaning to ask you too. Do you have any food related tattoos? I've never actually like done like a thorough search or anything.
I have to like look down. It's been so long. I do have a fork. I have a fork.
That is awesome and
I
perfect.
actually do have a bottle of wine and some cheese. Yeah.
That is amazing. I mean, obviously, Whitney, you're more than just a chef. You're someone with a lot of different passions and interests, and you love books, as you mentioned before, which is
Yeah.
one of the thousands of reasons I wanted you to be on here, and why we love, you know, having you as one of our favorite people and our friends of the store. But I just can't thank you enough for joining us tonight. For me, it's so hard not to say us when you're talking about us in an organization. I'm constantly saying us when I mean me, and you know. But I had the enormous pleasure. I mentioned also at the beginning of the show that I didn't. This was all a secret from Donna, because I had this idea for a way to do one-on-one stuff with just so many of our amazing friends. We've had authors, we've had bloggers, we've had chefs, we've had Robin Lamp, the operatic soprano, all these people that come Story and Song, but I want their stories to be, you know what I mean, I want the time for each story, you know?
Yeah, no.
And a few months went by and I got the first season down and I showed it to Donna, and unsurprisingly she teared up and she was so touched, and I was relieved because I was like, now I can excitedly tell Donna every time someone cool is going to be on Book Talks on Instagram. And so I have tried not to let this just be a vanity project, but this whole Book Talks experience I have loved so much, and it's just, I love doing our social media. I love Story and Song. It's my life, and Donna and Mark. And they remind me, when you talk about you and Ben and your ways you complement each other's strengths, it makes me think of Donna and Mark so much, because Donna is this visionary and Mark is very grounded, but he makes it happen because he, like all of us, believe in her vision, and that, you know, it's I think it's very complimentary. And I appreciate so much the people who, and I think, you know, everyone loves Story and Song, but obviously I have a vested interest, but to see the impact Story and Song has had on people, especially during coronavirus when we didn't know what was going to happen, every day was a new challenge. And do you know that person?
Yeah, hi, Michael. That's another really amazing young man who I've worked with in the past, and he is now running his own knife sharpening business out of Atlanta. So if you need your knives professionally sharpened, it's Moshi Knives, ATL. He's excellent. So that's a whole nother skill set that chefs have.
Jeez, talk about sponsorships. I mean, we've had restaurants, we've had knife sharpeners, we've had other authors. Oh my goodness gracious. But anyway, Whitney, I know that you are probably ready to call it a day and enjoy hopefully a glass of wine or some more tea. And I don't know if Fig is in bed yet, but I just hope that you're looking at a night of relaxation with your family, and probably not. I realized that as I was saying it, that was just like with the chefs thing, optimism.
I think
want chefs to be nice.
You need to host some baby experts on your next one who can tell us how to get babies to sleep.
You know, it's funny you say that. Anyway, so thank you, Whitney, for being on here. I am so excited. If I have not yet been able to show Donna how Instagram works, and she just leaves that to me, but I can't wait to show her this. I can't wait for people we've had lots of great live viewers, but I can't wait for people to see this after the fact. For anyone who is watching, makes it this far, we're saving all these on our Instagram Reels. It's going to be Season 2, Book Talks 2021. Whitney is our flagship guest, and obviously we could not imagine a better, more amazing guest who we love and represents exactly what the Book Talk series is about, which is amazing books, amazing people who love Story and Song and who care about it and share our values. And so like I said, I'll say it for 1,001st time, Whitney, thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you. And to all the viewers out there who have cooked from the book or ever have questions, please do reach out. You know, my goal is for you to use that book well, to have it stained, to have those pages dog-eared. You know, I love to see what people are cooking from the book. So please enjoy it, the Saltwater Table. Hopefully many more books coming from me in the future. So
also, I was one of my very, very, very brief moments where I was not physically present at Story and Song. This is unsigned. This is my copy because I missed that last time you were there. Because again, I'm literally at Story and Song every minute of my life, and I missed that you were not there. So I still need to get you.
Next time I come through, I'll be there at the end of January, so I'll sign it for you.
Yes. Okay. Anyway, thank you, like I said, Whitney. And also, just to touch on what you just said, you are so approachable and kind and wonderful, and you have helped support us and other businesses and the Book Loft and all of us, and you are just such a treasure to this community, and we all think so highly of you. I know that I speak for every person in the universe when I say that, and thank you so much. I hope you and your family continue to have a safe 2021. Hopefully it hasn't started great, so let's just it's all uphill from here. And thank you so much, Whitney, and I look forward to seeing you very soon. And keep cooking, or I don't know, I don't have a closing slogan. So.
Keep cooking and reading. I don't know.
Keep cooking and reading. Perfect. There it is. That's what's going on the next mug. After Happy
Yeah.
Place, it's keep cooking and reading. Okay. Thank you so much, Whitney. Have a good night. And for everyone, like we said, anyone that missed this, feel free to go on our reels on Instagram and follow us for more amazing people like Whitney. How do we top it from here? I don't know. I got to get my address book out and find someone else now. So
We'll do
thank you
some
so
live
much.
cooking next time.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I'm so glad he said that because oh gosh, the wheels are turning. All right. Thank you, Winnie. Have a wonderful night.
Bye. Thank you.